Hi, welcome to the Thank You Notes podcast. I'm your host, Travis McVeigh. On this podcast, we talk about gratitude. We talk about thank you notes. I read a thank you note I've written to somebody from my life, and in exchange, they read a thank you note they've written for someone or something in their life they feel deserves a public display of gratitude. Thanks for tuning in. Since our last episode, we hit a few milestones. Number one, 100 listens have occurred, and number two, we got a sponsor. So you'll get to hear that ad at some point during today's episode. Today's guest is Lindsey White. Lindsey is an anesthesiologist from Dallas, Texas. She trained at UT Southwestern. She and I have worked together for 6 years. The reason why I brought her on the podcast is because she writes book reviews and posts them on her social media feeds. You can follow her at DRLITRX on Instagram. These reviews are well written and positive. I enjoy them, and I wanted to let her know in the form of a thank you note. This was my first in-person podcast. Very exciting. So exciting that I forgot to turn on my mic for the first few minutes. I'm going to try to edit around it, but please bear with me. It does get better. Thank you for tuning in, and without any further ado, Dr. Lindsey White.
Big proponent of thank you notes. I encourage my children to write them, or my child, my oldest child, to write them. But yes, I am a fan of thank you notes. I was kind of reared in that element of always writing thank you notes and kind of showing people that you're thankful for what they chose to do for you because they didn't have to do it. My mom would have me write thank you notes if someone wrote me like a letter of recommendation, or if someone went over and beyond, just, send them a thank you note. I sent thank you notes to all of the people who interviewed me for med school or for residency, because I was just kind of taught that, they took the time to invest in you, so you need to say thank you for that. So, and I do that now with my daughter Tatum. As soon as she gets gifts, we make a list of who gave what. We maybe have her write one generic note, and then we'll just do like a shutterfly or something, but that's her message to people.
What is your technique for writing thank you notes? Walk me through what a Lindsey White thank you note looks like.
Well, I think it depends on the circumstances, but I try to incorporate whatever was done, like thank you for this donation or thank you for that, and then try to make it somewhat personal to let them know either A, how we're going to use the gift or donation, or just to say, we appreciate your time. I'm just acknowledging that you did something and you didn't have to do it, but you made that choice. So I value that. So that's all.
That's kind of my format. I haven't released my format yet. I promised I would, but it was, thank you for a specific thing.
Yes.
And then something that relates personally, like, we will use it for this, usually a self-deprecating joke, and then something, specific for them, and then thank you. And I'm sure you were in the position that I was in for residency, where you're writing thank you notes in the airport.
Yes.
Yeah.
'Cause I would try to do them right when I was done.
Yes.
I don't recall exactly where, but I did. I hate having them hang or loom over me. So I'm very direct on, okay, let's get this sent back out as quick as possible. For big stuff like wedding, I remember handwriting those. As I've had kids, I will make some on either tiny prints, shutterfly, or something, and just kind of make it general if it's a lot and send that out. But I'm also intentional. Like, I'll include a Bible verse if it's something that's meaningful, or something that is, or a quote or something that I feel is significant to kind of go along with the theme of whatever I'm sending out. So. But
now, your daughter Tatum, you said you make her write them. Is she old enough to write them herself, or did?
Yes.
Okay.
We really just started that probably in the last year. So she's 7. Mm-hmm. So her handwriting is actually legible now. But like last year for her first grade school pictures, we had her write, and we had to use like a full length size paper. And she just wrote a small message to some of the more important people that we sent the pictures to. Mm-hmm. But she did write it herself. And that's something I'm really trying to kind of hold on to, is because I don't think they really teach them how to address an envelope or like a letter anymore. I don't know. what the curriculum is nowadays. But I remember in second and third grade, that was a big thing. Like, your date goes here, your dear such and such is here, this is the body, you need to sign here. So I don't know if that's actively going on in school.
I think email has kind of killed all of that, but you're right. I'm learning more and more that even high school students don't know how to, they're not teaching them how to write letters or
the proper way to address things. Now, I know she is learning cursive, and I'm excited about that because I feel like that's not penmanship and the appropriate way to, write neatly. I just remember at her age, it being drilled into me the proper way to hold a pen, the proper way to hold a pencil, and things like that. Now, do I do it now? Probably not, but I do know how to do it if you ask me to, especially being left-handed, and she's left-handed too, so I have to overcorrect her sometimes with penmanship.
What was her attitude towards the thank you note? Did she like it? Did she get anything out of it, or was it just kind of a chore? And
I think it's a chore, but she really enjoys and likes the people who she sent them to, so she was still excited to do it, but I don't think she quite grasped the concept of showing gratitude yet. Okay. But we're getting there. So.
Well, there's still time. She's 7.
She's 7.
So the reason I wanted to have you on is because you write book reviews on your Facebook page.
Yes, Facebook and Instagram.
Oh, and Instagram at Dr. LitRx?
Yes, at DRLITRX.
Okay, let's blow that up.
Yes.
My dozens of listeners, please go follow that. I wanted to have you on because I really enjoy reading those, and it's given me some ideas of books to read, and it's something that you and I talk about. Have you always been a voracious reader, or how did that start?
Yes. I started reading, I don't know if you, in our community in Black culture, Jet magazine was like the thing to have in the 80s. It was like a small 5x7 magazine made by Johnson Publishing Company, but it was like Black entertainment, Black news, all the, like everything. So if you had a subscription to that in a Black household in the 80s, you were living it up. But my dad had stacks and stacks of Jets in our bathroom. So when I would go do number 2 or boo-boo, he would say, go read a Jet. Literally. Okay. And that was like what spurred my reading, because I would grab a Jet and start reading and learn random things. But I read through those. I remember reading Sweet Valley High and all the baby. Like I would, if you'd get me like a 4-pack of the Sweet Valley High, like 1, 2, 3, 4 on a vacation, I'd be done by the end of vacation. I'd be in the airport reading. It didn't matter. So Sweet Valley High, Babysitters Club, Nancy Drew, the Hardy Boys. I just liked reading. I always have. And I don't quite know what made it so easy, but I remember my piano teacher in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, Mrs. Gray, at St. Benedict's High School in San Antonio, Texas. She saw how much I enjoyed reading and that I liked the piano. And she said, you need to read The Hobbit. And I was like, okay. And I read that. And it just, after that, I was like, I just wanted to read more and more. So I've just always been a voracious reader. And I don't know why, but I enjoy it.
Now, did you keep that up during medical school and residency?
I didn't. Not to the even in college, I would say I didn't really read for pleasure because I was always reading, college coursework. Yeah. I didn't fully pick reading back up until I became an attending. And probably when I had Tatum, but I've always had the desire to read, and I would read a good book if you told me one, but just to have the access to just read freely, I probably didn't do that at all during med school or residency like I could have, like I do now.
I think a lot of us drop our hobbies during medical school and especially during residency. I know I dropped mine. It's just you don't have the time or mental capacity to do it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what I even read. Like, I don't even remember reading a book of significance I'm sure I did, and I probably have them around, but I definitely read much more now once I finished training. Like, once I finished boards, I was, I passed and I knew I was good for 10 years. It was like, oh, okay, let me read for me now. So that's all I do now.
So then what led you to sharing your book reviews on Facebook and Instagram?
It was around 2000. Tatum had to be about 2, so like 2017 ish. We were taking more overnight call here for trauma, because that trauma was starting to pick up. So I would be here for like nights and not doing anything, and I would be reading. And I was like, oh, everyone's told me I had a really good voice. I should start doing audiobooks and narration, and, you know, I should read. So I tried to start practicing for that and reaching out to different people, and I just didn't fully commit to like voiceover work because it was expensive to make a demo CD.
Yes.
And I met with one guy, and he was like, yeah, you have a great voice. You have to do coaches, $125 a class, and then $5,000 to make a CD. And I was just like, I just had a baby, you know, like, yeah, no. And I just kind of put it to the side. But I still liked reading, and I still wanted to do something. So I was like, well, maybe I can just read books and then write about them, because I enjoy writing too. I enjoy English, analyzing things. I love looking for themes, you know, just big pictures, like how you used to break it down in, you know, advanced AP classes. Like, oh, well, what's the symbolism here? Or, you know, what can we extrapolate here? What does this remind you of? Blah, blah, blah. I read Michelle Obama's book, and I was like, I should do a review and just say what I think about it. And I made an Instagram account. I had no idea, because I still don't really know technology like that. I said, well, I'll just start reading books and writing what I think about them if I can't do actually audio narration. So that's kind of how it started, was let me pivot into something else that maybe is a little cheaper. But now I'm at a point where I'm like, yeah, I would love to be a book blogger or a book reviewer and get paid for it, or, you know, talk about books, interview authors. But maybe I just need to focus a little bit more on it, on the social media side, to drum up. And that's where I kind of struggle, because I'm not very social or media driven like that. And I don't know how to get past that. But I know that that's something I'd have to do if I want to get there. So,
yeah, I'm slowly figuring a lot of that out with this foray into podcasting. But what has the response been so far? I didn't realize you've been doing it for 5 years. So what was the response initially, and how has the response changed?
I think, you know, pre-COVID, I would just kind of read when I wanted to and try to write a review. During COVID, I realized how many people were on social media and how game-changing, I guess it would be, now that everybody was at home. So I tried to focus on it more. So, I mean, I have a decent amount of followers, and I follow the right people. And my friends look to my reviews. I've had some people tell me, oh, I read this book because you recommended it. It was great. I love it. So I've had an uptick in people acknowledging, oh, yeah, I really enjoy how you write, or, you know, thank you for that recommendation. So I'm on the right path. I guess I'm just moving slowly, but I don't know if I'll ever be on Book Talk during TikTok stuff, but I think that's what I'd have to do eventually. But
That's the next step.
Yeah, if I want to get the numbers up. But I try to write honest reviews if I like something. It's very rare that I just, quote unquote, don't like a book. I can always find something to kind of garner from it if I'm taking the time to read it.
They're always positive reviews. I don't think I've actually written a negative review, and I don't know if that speaks to my ability to effectively critique. If I'm reading something and I choose to finish it, I'm definitely gleaning something positive from it, even if I may not like the writing style. And I think that's just kind of how I've always been. Like, I can find the positive or find something to take away. So I've kind of gotten that way when it comes to my reading. It's, if I don't like it, I'm more comfortable letting books go now.
That's DNF. Did not finish. Make a pile for that and add it to the DNF pile, or the TBR, to be read pile.
To be read. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and read my thank you note to you.
Okay, this is exciting.
You rock.
It's a picture of a rock, guys.
It's a picture of a rock. Yes. Dear Lindsey, I wanted to take a moment to thank you for sharing your book reviews. Not only have I used them to find good books to read, it has given me an insight into your personality and who you are. I would not have gotten this view of you despite having worked with you for 6 years. I enjoy reading them and talking books with you in person. I'm looking forward to your next review. Thank you very much, Travis.
Thank you. That was like the perfect thank you note, just lengthwise content. And you should listen to Keke Palmer.
Keke Palmer.
Go find her Instagram blurb on How It's Good to Be a Rock.
How It's Good to Be a Rock by Keke Palmer. Okay.
I'll show it to you when we end this so you can. But she says actually being a rock is not a bad thing. So anyway, this makes me remember that. But thank you.
You're welcome. All right, now you have a thank you note that you'd like to freestyle to who's it? To your big mama.
Yes, big mama is Lorraine Nelson. It's my mom's mom, my maternal grandmother. She actually passed away tomorrow would be the day she passed away, back in 2006. I was not there when she passed, so I couldn't tell her thank you, but I was in med school, so I was in Houston, she was in San Antonio. So when you told me like, oh, you need to thank somebody, I was like, I don't know who I would think. I have so many people. I was like, should I thank my kids? Should I thank my husband, my mom? But she kept kind of coming back to me as I kind of pondered, and I didn't write anything because I just wanted to tell her thank you. Are you okay with that?
I'm completely okay with that.
Okay. Big mama, Lorraine Nelson, may she rest in peace. I just want to tell you thank you for having a love that was able to bend but never break. You were a woman who poured so much into me at such an early and crucial age in my life, and I know I'm a better woman today because of everything that you taught me, from always arriving early to things, because you never want anybody to wait on you if they're doing something for you, period. And just doing things right the first time, making sure that you're intentional, teaching me how to play the piano. And just, I feel like your love was a love that was never transactional. It was just there. And as a child, you just need that love. And I'm so happy I had it, because I know now how to love unconditionally, and even with my own kids and with my family and friends that I truly have meaningful relationships with. I don't do things looking for anything in return. I just know it's the right thing to do, or if my heart tells me to do it, it needs to be done. And I know that I definitely was instilled that from you. So thank you, Big Mama. I love you and I miss you, and I hope I'm making you proud. And please continue to guide me and guide my family as we journey on. That's all.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
It sounds like that kind of feeds into the book reviews. Your heart was telling you, hey, I love these books. I love to write. I want to get my voice out there.
Yes, it is. I feel like I have something to say on certain topics or just issues. And, you read certain books and you kind of, and I try not to pigeonhole myself into reading the same things. I want to read broadly, nonfiction, fiction. But if I can write things that are meaningful and that say things of importance, at least in my eyes, and some of the other people or my peers or friends, or even from somebody who doesn't agree with me at all, if they can maybe say, oh, I didn't think about it from that standpoint, or that's an interesting perspective. I may not agree with you, but I see where you're coming from. That's hopeful to me. I would love to have a bigger platform. Maybe I think I'm just a little inhibited by what, like we've talked about, the process and what all it would take. But yeah, I would love to read more, review more, talk with different authors, talk different books, and just, if I could do books 24/7 and get paid for it, and anesthesia part-time, sure, let's figure it out. Don't tell our partners that, though.
No, I think we would all support you. Go into a little bit about Big Mama growing up. Like, did you spend summers with her, or what kinds of things did you guys do together?
So I grew up in San Antonio. Dad was a police officer. My mom was a nurse. She's a registered nurse, so she worked in the ER, ICU. So they both have shift work, obviously. So I was at my grandmother's house every day sometimes. Like, she'd pick me up from school, take me to school. It just depends if my mom worked nights or my dad was getting off. She was an integral part of my day in, day out. Summers there, holidays there. I was at my grandmother's house. So she definitely helped mold me along with my mom and dad. I'm not saying like they weren't involved at all. They were. They're very present and still are to this day. But my maternal grandmother, I just have so many memories of her house. And it's weird because I actually have more memories at her house than I have at my mom and dad's house. And it's not that I didn't have them there, but it's just like my memories at her house. I can tell you right now, walking into her house, I can give you every aspect of each room, her kitchen, just waking up every morning and there's Folgers coffee going in a percolator and it smells the whole house. She's frying bacon. She's making grits. Like, that was our breakfast every morning. My memories are just so fresh and like real to me. So that's how I know she's so important to me. But yeah, I was there at her house all the time, all through high school, even from middle school. If I had games, you go to her house, wait, and then go at 6:30. High school, I would drive over when I got out of school if I wasn't working or had practice or anything. So she was an integral part of my day-to-day.
So she was close by.
Yeah, not close. She was close to my high school. She lived about in San Antonio at that time before traffic. I can get to her house in 15, 20 minutes. But she was on the east side, right outside of downtown. My dad worked downtown. My mom worked in that area. So my schools were on that side of town. So she was central to our kind of day-to-day happenings. But yeah, she was always there. I would, she taught me how to roll pennies and roll dimes and roll nickels. And you take those dimes and you go to the bank and you deposit, every so often. And, she saved almost like $5,000 for me by the time I went to college. And she did that for each of her grandchildren. And she was so giving, but she never really had a lot. But I would see her first of the month. She'd get her spiral notebook and write down all her bills and write down all her checks. And she could balance it and make money stretch to the very end and still have money to give. Like, I just think that generation did so much with so little. And now we're in a state of excess that it's like, we really don't need all that. But I'm the same way now. If you gave me some money and told me I had to make it last till this long, I'd do it because I saw her do it and I know how. But that's just so much value in seeing that at that age. I can count better because I rolled pennies and I rolled dimes and nickels, and I knew how. I don't do it now. Okay. I need to have Tatum do it. We had Tatum doing it for a little bit, but there's value in taking that and how many pennies are in here. Okay, so how much is that? Okay, so we're gonna keep doing that, and then when we get to that, we're gonna take it to the bank and put it in your savings account. And, we did that during the summers or anything. She had a garden. We grew tomatoes and all kinds of stuff. And she baked. She was a baker. She was the cake lady, so she would bake cakes and sell them, and that's how she made extra money. So
do you have siblings?
I have an older half sister. My dad was married prior to my mom, and my sister is in Arizona. She's like 10 years older than me, but we are not super close. Okay. I am between my mom and my dad, I'm their only child, and I'm my mom's only child.
Cousins? That was when it just.
Yeah.
What I'm getting is, did you and Big Mama have this special relationship, or was she like that with the rest of her grandkids?
She was like that. So growing up, immediately it was myself. I have an older cousin, Quincy. He's like 10 years older than me, and then my younger cousin, LaShonda, she's 4 or 5 years younger than me. We're all right, kind of behind each other. She had that relationship with each of us, with anybody who set foot in that house. My parents had been divorced for years. My dad still had a key to her house. She kept his pictures up in the house. She was like, y'all are divorced, but you still my son. Wow. He moved back from out of state and stayed with her in the back room. And it worked out great because he needed a place to stay kind of right away, and she needed extra help. But he called her, and she was like, well, do you still have your key? And he was like, yeah. And she said, well, come on. Her love was so expansive that anybody who walked in her house, you were immediately at home and taken care of, period. No questions asked. She really showed me so much on how to manage a home, manage a family, just to give so much. She taught me how to play the piano. I remember going downtown, and this was before, you can print everything off the internet. You go buy your books and buy your piano books, and this is middle C. This is middle C on a piano, and then we're going to go from there. So she was just a really rarity, I think. They don't make big mamas like that anymore. No, it's few far in between. So I'm trying to maintain that and keep it going as much as possible with Tatum. And I think my mom and my mother-in-law are doing a great job of that as well. But there's value in kind of doing things back to basics. And I'm trying not to lose that as we continue to get more and more modern and tech savvy and quicker, faster, better. I don't want to lose what she instilled in me. to what should be valued at that point. So.
Right. It's big shoes.
Yeah, but I'm here. So.
All right. Well, I guess last question. What book has made the biggest impact on you that you could recommend to everybody?
The books that I recommend kind of often, or that I say I would always come back to and read over and over again, is Zora Neale Hurston's Their Eyes Were Watching God. The dialect is really hard to get past, but it's reflective of how, they spoke at the time, but the storyline is so full. It's just so rich. That one, and I would say The Hobbit too, because the fantasy and just how it was crazy. Like when how the Hobbit movie came out and
yes.
you're thinking, but in my mind, I had already had it, what it would look like. And I think that's what I like about reading is that, especially fiction, I create what I think it looks like. And it just allows my mind and my imagination to just kind of take off. Like, how does this character look? What does this background look like? And The Hobbit is one story where you can really get lost in that. But it makes the reading even better because I feel like you're experiencing it as you're reading it. So I know that's kind of crazy.
And you get a personal relationship with.
Yes, with the character. So I would say The Hobbit, Their Eyes Were Watching God, the autobiography of Malcolm X. Ooh. I love that book. What else? Those are like my top ones that I would say I'd read over and over again.
I guess we're hitting all the point. We're hitting.
Yeah, we're all over
X,
it.
Middle Earth. Their Eyes Were Watching God.
I mean, I think The Hobbit did it for me, though. I just remember after reading it, I was like, wow. And then, you want to go and read The Lord of the Rings and the trilogy. And I didn't finish the trilogy, but The Hobbit just stuck with me. It's like, wow, this is so cool. That was it for me. After I read that, I was like, oh, I just want to read whatever I can get my hands on. If it's interesting, I'm going to read it. But I'm not an e-reader. I don't like Kindles. I need a book in my hand. I need to underline quotes. I need to dog ear pages. I will write down, if it's a quote that I just love, I will write it down and put it in a little notebook or tab or put it on my wall and read it, just for inspiration. So I just value well-written words. And so yes. Maybe that's why I like thank you notes too, because I can get my words out. So.
Is Tatum a reader?
She's getting there. I'm a little disappointed, and I'm trying not to be judgy as a mom. Like, Tatum, like, why aren't you she doesn't really enjoy reading. But we're getting there. So our thing now is we read at night, and we read together. So she reads a page, I read a page. We go back and forth like that, and we're doing chapter books now. She enjoys reading with me because she's doing something with mommy. We're not quite at the book where she just wants to get now she likes the Dog Man series. I don't know if your readers will probably, if they have kids my age, Dog Man is like graphic novels. So she'll read that. So I'm happy she's reading, but I'm trying to get her to read some other chapter book. So if she's reading with me and I read a page, she reads a page, she loves it. And we can get by with like a good 20, 30 minutes or so, and then it's time to go to bed. But I'm not pressing her to read. If I had a Jet magazine, maybe,
I was going to say, get a stack of Jet magazines.
My dad probably has some Jets at his house if I found them. You got to start somewhere.
Okay. Well, Dr. Lindsey White, it's been a pleasure. Thanks you for coming on.
Yes. I hope this does well. I'm proud of you.
Me too. Well, thank you.
Yes.
The strange thing about anesthesiologists is that we don't really know each other that well. We've worked together for 6 years, but you don't really spend that much time in the same room. We work by ourselves. So I enjoyed that talk with Lindsey. Thank you again for coming on. Give her a follow on Instagram at DrLitRx, at DrLitRx. While you're at it, give me a follow at Thank You Notes Pod. The next episode is going to get weird. My best friend from high school is Nick, will be the guest. He is unique, and I'll leave it at that. Please reach out and thank somebody today. Write a thank you note. Tell somebody thank you. Hold the door open. It feels good. They feel good. The world becomes a better place. And I'll see you next time.